Okay, it is Alec the Catholic doing another Brockhampton reaction today. This time, Jovert, Jovert. Jovert sounds more French. I think it's a French word. I have no idea. I don't know what it means. As usual with these guys, you have no idea what to expect. You'll just see a lot of familiar faces. Let's go.
Me llamo Roberto y estos son los sueños que no he olvidado.
Take it up or leave it.
Infrared. Is the whole thing going to be infrared?
When there's a rough patch on eye for the parachute, they going AWOL second that the light is on. It's a treat and it's on me, she hit the powder room. I pull it back and check my boots, so yeah, I'm about to bloom. It's a 90 race, some hell shit, probably like when the lane switch. Coming how you wear, strobe blind, I hit the kill switch. Leg twist like exorcist, I'ma see you around. It's tonight, I'm losing, all I'm doing, I'm about this.
So that whole first verse, I don't know who was singing it. It's hard to tell who's who when everyone's in infrared. But I did catch the nose. He talked about the nose. Is that what is it? No, I'll pull it back. A powder room. Yeah, you go into the powder room. Check my Rosie. Yeah, I'm about to bloom. I thought he said nose. I thought he said nosy. I thought he just talked about doing some cocaine. I don't know. Powder room. Going to the bathroom. He could just been. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what it. So this is the thing. Like these guys, if they are really deep artists, it's hard for me. It's really hard for me to know what it is they're talking about here. There's so much of this that I can't relate to at this point. I'm trying to understand. I have the lyrics up. That's what I'm looking down at. So I apologize if that's annoying, but they go fast and they kind of mumble a little bit, so it's hard for me to get the lyrics all the way. But I'm gonna hang in there, guys. I'm gonna hang in there. We will get an impression at least of what this song is about and what it's for. I'm gonna try my darndest.
Gloves, wood grain, money in the suitcase, on my way to the bank. White gloves, wood grain, money in the suitcase, on my way to the bank. 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 Suitcase, on my way to the bank. On my way to the bank. On my way to the bank. To the casket drops, I will play God. Fuck the world, let's start a riot. Got too much too quick. Goddamn, I'm feeling sick, bitch. Call the doctor. Don't act like I ain't been dead to you. Don't act like I ain't deserved this shit. Could last a day inside my head. That's why I did the drugs I did. Got issues with these motherfuckers looking down.
So I'm going to stop right there, probably in the middle of the song. Bad idea, but I'm going to stop it because I want to catch this before it goes too far. Till the casket drops, I will play God. Don't act like I've been dead to you. Don't act like I don't deserve this. Couldn't last a day inside my head. That's why I do all the drugs that I did. I believe this is Matt Champion, a guy who I thought was Italian. I think he's mixed Japanese and something else. So one of my subscribers has been doing a really good job. He did a really good breakdown for me, introducing me to all the different guys. Joba was the guy with the mullet who I was like, who the heck is this guy? And then Bareface is in later albums. I don't know what album this song is from, so I'm trying to put this in some context. But just this right here, as an addict, sorry for the motorcycle. I don't know if you can hear that, but as an addict, from my experience with addiction, has been that as an addict, you kind of create a world in which in which you can get the comfort that you're looking for. You can find the fulfillment. You can fill that void inside yourself with your drug. You know your drug is bad though, and so what you have to do is you kind of have to isolate yourself from the rest of the world. And also all the things you're struggling with, all the things that you can't really deal with, the drug, whether it's a substance or in my case pornography, it like place and you hide and you conceal and you basically get drunk in a sense. You numb yourself through overload. You get so overloaded with the chemical release, the endorphins, the arousal, the high, that you don't feel that pain associated with the void inside yourself. In order to maintain that, in order to be able to go back to that and keep that up, you know what you're doing is either bad or illegal or you shouldn't be doing it. So you have to kind of create your own little world and you play God essentially. At least that was my experience. So like as an addict, I often had this thought, like if something was going wrong in my life, if I messed up in something, like at school or at work, oftentimes I would blame the people who were in authority over me. I'd say, well, it's their fault. They didn't teach me how to do that right. Or it was this teacher's fault because he didn't, like nothing was actually ever my fault, ever. And anyone who tried to convince me that I screwed up, I would get really defensive. Because it's like, what are you trying to do? Like, I already have, and this is not like an actual conscious thing that goes on. Like, this is just kind of how I would behave. This is how I can interpret it or express it or explain it. I would basically like push off their criticism as, like because I didn't want to do more work. I didn't want to have to get outside of my own head more. I didn't want to have to think about other people more, because really I was very practiced and I was in the habit of thinking about myself, thinking on myself, thinking for myself, and then feeling sadness at at my lack of fulfillment because I was my own God. And when you're your own God, the world is very small, and there's really not much to do, and it's very not as beautiful as it could be. And so you're unsatisfied. I was unsatisfied, so I would go to my drug to make myself feel better, and then stay in my own little world and stay in my own little head. And so anyone criticizing that and threatening that, I saw as a threat, and I would blame them for all my problems. So I don't know if that's confusing or if that makes any sense, but that's the experience that I had, and that's what I have heard as well through other people in my program, in group shares and things like that, and in books and literature that I read about the addiction specifically. It's not uncommon for an addict to feel like they are God of their own little world, and they have to be. They have to maintain that. Otherwise, that means that they have to admit that their drug addiction is something that is not good for them and is destroying them, and that they might have to give it up at some point. And they don't want to do that because that's what's making them feel good. And so until you realize that it's the void that you're trying to fill in yourself that is really the problem, the addiction doesn't go away. But that's really long. That's a lot. Just from this one little thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is I relate to this and I understand this idea of playing God and getting mad at other people, and then doing drugs because you have problems going on, and you have to do the drugs in order to comfort yourself a little bit, because your problem really is you. It's really you. So it's deep. It's deep that he touched on this. It really is.
From their pedestals, from that petty view on that petty shit. Pray for peace with a knife in my hand. Speak my peace like a gun in my hand. Come equipped just to blast the shit. Misunderstood since birth. Fuck what you think and fuck what you heard.
Yeah, and so this reaction right here, it makes a lot of sense. Like, I would feel this way all the time if my my girlfriend caught me looking at porn. If I had to admit to somebody I was watching porn or doing anything else or acting out in any other way that was deviant or sexually bad, my initial reaction was one of anger, and it's just kind of like, you don't understand what I'm going through, you don't understand what I'm dealing with, like, screw you. So pray for peace with a knife in my hand. Yeah, you're praying for your own peace. I would often pray for my own peace, but then it was like I had this aggression and this defensiveness that could get really. I can be a real jerk Just ask my wife. Right? Since going through my program, I think I've become less of a jerk. I think I get less defensive, and I'm more open to criticism. But that took a long time, and I still struggle. Anytime I have a lapse in sobriety, it comes back, and it's not good. So, but anyway, let's keep going.
I feel betrayed. You can keep the praise, and all of the fuck shit need to get away. Still ain't get the right to the fickle-minded people. I thought I knew better, wish I knew better, should have known better, wish that I was better at dealing with the fame and you fake motherfuckers. Guess I'm too real.
Okay, so I love the fact that he said that, and I love the fact that he is actually trying to be real. Okay, so if there's one thing I can say about Brockhampton that is a positive for me, and it's something of value that I've been taking so far from the majority of their music, is that these guys are very real. Sometimes a little too real. It's like they're showing you. I guess this is the way I would put it. I am used to artists who have gone through really tough times, have gone through some really deep and hard stuff, and who have come out on the other side okay. What this feels like to me is a glimpse of, and a lot of their music. It's a lot. It feels like a lot of their music is a glimpse into the life of and the minds of people who are currently going through really hard and really deep struggles, who don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, who don't see any salvation or any redemption or any way out. It feels like they're kind of trapped and in a hopeless situation, and they know they're in a hopeless situation, and their response to the hopeless situation is just more anger and more aggression and more lashing out at the people around them, because that's really like that, they have no other option. So it's like, I don't see any way to heal and become better internally, so I'm going to just make sure no one hurts me externally. And I'm going to do that by putting my fists up really early on in the relationship or the discourse or whatever. And I'm going to make sure you don't hurt me. And so this statement right here, I mean, it sounds like he may have already gotten played by some fake people in the industry. That maybe somebody promised them something and it didn't fall through, and it's something they really had their hopes on. Or it could just be people, using them to get more clicks and more likes, or making reaction videos about them on YouTube and then profiting off it. This could be considered too. I honestly see this could be considered something that he would not like. Somebody going through and picking through the music and just trying to understand it and trying to relate to it in this way. I could see that as something that these guys might not be okay with or like. At the same time, they might really love this. I don't know. But I can see where it's like this whole, I'm being me, I'm being real, and people are just trying to take advantage of me for it, and I'm still hurting. So leave me alone. Really, that's basically what he's saying. Just leave me alone.
Excuse me. Let me pass. Rum is with gas. We ain't playing gas. Don't blame me. Then we run the
I be in my bag.
excuse me.
Pussy isn't built for this, man. Me and my dogs built for this, man. We going for the gifts and the grand. I be in my bag. Going ahead.
So here in the lyrics I'm reading, that actually grams is spelled out, the actual gram, like a weight. And I'm assuming grams is referring to some kind of grams of a drug specifically. So he's doing it for the gifts and the grams. I'm assuming that's drugs.
Smoking all the grams in this bag. Man, you isn't built for this, man. Run it like a gingerbread man. Fuck that shit, stay hydrated, nigga. I'ma let that bitch go home, cause my mama, what's up?
Okay, so he's gonna let somebody go home and then kiss his mama and say what's up. Like it is. It feels a lot like rebellious, like a rebellious teenage thing. Like, I'm gonna do whatever I want. Like, I feel indestructible. That's what this verse feels like it's saying to me. And the reference to the grams. I don't know if weed is measured in grams. I really don't. I'm pretty sure that cocaine and powdered drugs are measured in grams. I'm not sure about marijuana specifically, but I don't necessarily need an education in that. So we'll just keep going. I think I know what he's talking about here. For the most part, he feels indestructible, and he's doing it for the drugs and the gifts. And again, this might not be what he's actually going through right now. This might have been just something he wrote at the time because this is how it felt at the time and in the moment. So I hope he's doing okay.
What's up? Black pound fist hanging from my black robe. Yo, she saw me in that cereal. She wants a lick of Oreo. Damn. Read the damn when I spit the flow.
She saw me in the cereal is a reference, I think, to like people seeing religious images in their cereal. So he's saying that she saw me, she had a vision of me in the cereal, and she thinks I'm God, basically. It's clever. It's a clever line. I can't deny it. It's a pretty clever line that she saw me in the cereal.
I'm on the lamb like the fucking wolf. I've been out the van.
I'm on the lamb like the wolf. That's clever too. Okay, so I like the Jamaican gentleman, he's like partially Jamaican. I think that's who's singing right now. I can't remember his name.
And I'm at Abbey Road. Bands with cameras in the bathroom, man, that's difficult. I just wanna smoke a backwards by my lovely self. Chill, watch numbers go up, book off the shelf. I find myself and put my face on a missing shirt. I dropped out with no promise that this shit will work.
So he specifically dropped out of some kind of school, either high school or college, just to see, without any promise that this would work. And it seems like he's an introvert, what he's describing here. He just wants to smoke and be by himself, chill, maybe see how his videos are progressing, and then book off the shelf. So he likes to take the books off the shelf and probably read. So this is a gentleman that likes to read. And that's cool. So these guys are being real. They're sharing a lot about themselves and what they're going through here. And we're almost done with the video. I think there's only 2 more verses.
With the dogs in my ride, another dog, suicide, paranoid, do or die, you should know we never lie. With the dogs in my ride, another dog, suicide, paranoid, do or die, you should know we never lie.
You should know we never lie. That's an interesting line. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Like, frankly, from what I can tell, like, yeah, most hip hop and rap, I've said this before, it's cocky, it's arrogant, and you're exuding confidence to show you're bigger, that you're better, and you're more intimidating than everyone else around you. But so there's exaggeration, obviously, but they're exaggerating. They're using metaphors and language to express something that I think is probably true. It's definitely true. Like, the revelation that one of these gentlemen's introverted and likes to be alone. The other guy, he's struggling with this. He feels like he's God, but everyone else is the problem, and he has to do drugs to deal with the thoughts that he gets in his head. So they're being very real, very raw. I have respect for that.
White cups, wood grain, money in a suitcase on my way to the bank. White cups, wood grain, money in a suitcase on my way to the bank. On my way to the bank. On my way to the bank.
I'm not sure what the wood grain reference is to. I know like white cuffs. It sounds a lot like kind of like the Victorian dress, like Amadeus, like Mozart, Bach, and turn of the century kind of dress. Is that what he's talking about? The white cuffs, like they like to get dressed up real fancy, and then wood grain. I'm not sure about the wood grain part. That could be a reference to something I have. White cuffs could be a drug. It could also just be like fuzzy cuffs. Like that's weird. I don't know. Like, there's so many things that that could be, but obviously they're taking the money to the bank. I think that's Joba right there. He looks like Joba, but infrared's hard to tell. couch, and they always have a couch. Okay, so this song, very deep, heavy bass. Um, this is the kind of song you just put your woofers on and turn the volume up in your car and just drive around and intimidate some folks and scare some people. Maybe. I know I talked a lot about the drug addiction stuff. They talk a lot about drugs. I think it would be a surprise to find out that they had no experience with drugs. Oh, there's the motorcycle again. Um, so I mean, like, yeah, these guys, I would assume that they either currently are using or have had experience of using them in the past, at the very least. And I, again, like I said before, like I hope that they're not using. I hope that they aren't afraid to face the world sober. Um, if anybody watching this video is currently using and doesn't want to anymore, wants to try and face the world sober, if you're struggling with any kind of addiction at all, one thing that I have in every single one of my videos is a link to an app you can get on your phone called Our Tribe. It's a community. Our Tribe stands for Recovery Tribe, and it's for people who are in recovery from an addiction or from depression, social anxiety, or any kind of anxiety, eating disorders. If you need a support group, if you need a community, an anonymous community you can go to and you can talk to about your problems, about what you're going through, there's a community on Our Tribe for you, most likely. They do not pay me to do this little ad for them, or to shout out to them, or to refer people to them. But I try to as often as I can because I use it personally. It's done a lot for me personally. I have my community of sex addicts on there, and I go to them whenever I'm feeling triggered. I check in with them. I try to check in with them daily. And it's a support group, and it's some accountability you can have right there on your phone. If you can't go to a meeting, if you can't afford to go to a program, if you don't feel you have the time, but you're always on social media, this is just another social media you can use to actually reflect on yourself and get out of your own head. Realize you're not the god of this world, and you're not going to really benefit from being the god of your own world. There's an old saying that not an old saying, a saying I saw on Facebook. I know it's lame, but it said that you make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give. And it's really cheesy, but I think it's 100% true. And I think that if you can get outside of your own head, you can realize that you can give so much to this world and to the people around you, and that you'll have a life at that point, and a life worth living. And no man is a failure who has friends, and friends need you to give to them too, to give them what's good, give them some valuable time, a smile, a shoulder to cry on, or an ear, just someone to listen to. Many people just need someone to be there for them and to love them, and you could do that. And I think Our Tribe will help addicts do that and live and lead a fulfilling life. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I think I'm on the track to having, and I think I have some of that now because I've built up a lot of sobriety, and I hope that you take the invitation and consider it. And if you know somebody who's currently going through any kind of addiction, you can refer them to Our Tribe as well. Totally anonymous and totally free. You can pay for courses on there, but you don't have to. I don't. So thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. I hope this wasn't too long. I'll check in with you, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.